Live. We're live. Hey everyone, good afternoon. We are live and in fabulous bold color. Miami View coming to you live with our special guest, Yuki Tavera, who's a fellow New Yorker. Woo-hoo.
Yes.
And my wonderful, fabulous co-host, Carolina Castillo. What's up, Carolina?
Hello.
Happy Friday.
I'm
So I
feeling
was
a little extra today just because we have an artist. I'm a little extra today.
we're all feeling very artsy, very artsy.
Yay.
You know, so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you, and we're feeling, we all dressed in kind of bold, artsy earrings, colors today, just in your honor.
Thank
so we're really
you.
excited to have you. Right?
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Miriam Dorset, who's in the background, our producer, for introducing us to you. So this is the first time we're meeting you. And I know we've spoken a little bit behind the scenes. And we just love your energy. And I wanted to say I love your earrings. They're super cool.
Show it to us again so the audience can see. Now, did someone make those, or did you make those?
No, they were like a little boutique-y find, and they look like it's painted metal. And they're a little heavy, but they make a little statement. So you show up to the place, and then you take them off when they're heavy.
Blue is a very powerful color.
Yes, it's my power color. Look, my nails are blue.
Ah, I'm along with you, but I'm going a little different blue today.
So as we wait for our viewers to come in, we do want to invite our viewers to come in and chat and ask your questions live on the comments. And I'm sure Yuki will be more than happy to answer your questions. Yuki is amazing. Like, she's an art dealer, an art fixer, advisor, creative consultant who travels the world managing private art collections for the most exclusive of clients. And I was asking you behind the scenes, I'm like, what is the difference between dealer and fixer and advisor and curator? Because it's like, I'm fascinated with what you do.
It's a little bit of everything. I can't really even call myself a dealer because that's like an art broker. There's gallerists that do that. Like, you go to a gallery, you buy a piece, they exclusively source art. They do a little bit of that. If somebody reaches out to me and say, I must have a piece by this artist, I do my best to research the auctions, call the galleries, and work on their behalf, serve as a liaison for them. I can give them advice as to, I am interested in art and I don't know anything about art. Can you take me to Art Basel? Can you take me to a show? Or what does this mean? And I build up friendships with people. I go to people's homes and they say, look at this wall, look at my house, and what do you think? And, it's much like an interior designer. You go on these little walkthroughs, it's like a courtship in a way. And sometimes my style doesn't fit, sometimes it does. And we become friends. We go out to art shows and I get a sense of what my clients like. And they learn about art in the process, and I learn about their aesthetic. There's a lot of fixing. I don't know if you guys remember the show Scandal with Olivia Pope. Sometimes I wake up and I have like 10 messages on my phone, and it's like 6 a.m. And I'm like, I feel like Olivia Pope in Scandal. It'll be auctions. Like, I also find obscure auctions all over the world to find pieces for people that nobody knows about it. Sometimes they're cheap or they're like in poor condition. So people call me when there's issues, like, oh, I have a piece that's stuck in Thailand in customs and it needs to be in Canada. Like, I need to figure out all the logistics of every possible worst case scenario. A condition report. If you ask an auction house for a condition report, sometimes it's not on the up and up. So they'll call somebody, what is that thing on that corner? Sometimes I travel to physically look at these pieces myself. And say, what, it's not in the best condition, and it's exciting. Every minute is every day is different.
If you ever need any travel companions, Carolina and I are available. Just let us know.
Oh my God, you're fascinating.
haven't been traveling that much lately. Thank goodness, because of technology. There's been, we've stepped it up. Now it's like, send me a WhatsApp video, send me this, send me that. So we've been really relying on that. Lately,
tell us about you're originally from Queens.
Yes. Well, I was born in the Dominican Republic.
Born in the Dominican Republic, and then you went to Queens.
Yes, I'm from Santo Domingo. Raised
in Latina in the house. I'm from Colombia. I literally was born in Colombia, so it's fun to always have a Latina here in the show.
I love it. I love it. We can practice our Spanglish.
Yes.
Sometimes lose it. Sometimes I switch and I'm like, wait a minute, what language am I speaking? So I was raised in New York. I consider myself very much a New Yorker. All the schooling. My parents had their business in Brooklyn. I lived in Queens. High school in the city, college upstate. I mean, I'm a New York girl.
You're definitely New York.
Definitely have been immersed in the arts from age 5. Even back in the Dominican Republic, my mom dragged me to her college art class, and I've been hooked ever since. And I went into education after that. Like as soon as I moved to Florida, I was an art teacher for 14 years. And the labor of love eventually, I'm sure you've heard of it, teacher burnout. and it kind of made me kind of stop, take pause, and reshift and realign some things. And this is how I ended up doing what I'm doing now.
And Yvette, you're a New Yorker.
Yes, Queens also, Rosedale, Queens. Was it Bay Ridge? I can't remember.
Ridgewood,
yeah. So what do you think what do you think prompted you or inspired you to continue that art journey from such a young age? Sometimes people, grow up in the art industry, but then they kind of lose that passion. But it seems like along your journey, that passion increased tenfold. Definitely. So what do you think was the inspiration behind that?
Definitely. My parents just were not your typical parents. My parents were all in, whatever my kid's about, I'm going to support them. And they encouraged us to do different things. As a child, I always, every weekend, my parents were curating weekends for us. We're going to go to the Natural History Museum. We're going to go to the park. We're going to go to this Native American reservation. So we grew up as naturally curious kids and always trying to put things together with recipes and going to restaurants of cultures we never even heard of. We grew up that way. Typically, sometimes I'm Dominican. There's a very specific Dominican cuisine and Dominican things. And so we don't necessarily fit any mold. So when I got into art, my parents were like, that's cool. That's going to benefit. I did have some relatives along the way that said, what are you going to do? Take pictures or something? You're going to paint coconuts? What are you going to do? I just kind of kept my head down. I just kept doing what I liked. And it hasn't been easy, as you know, like artists, the term starving artist is not made up. It's hard out here and it's
real.
I definitely want to go into that. So, art in itself is really difficult to strive in and to be successful at and thrive, correct? And then yes. you keep saying, Dominican, you're Dominican, you're Dominican. There's a specific thing about Dominicans and Dominican food. And there's also a specific thing about Afro-Latina. You're an Afro-Latina making art and curating. And so I wanted to ask you, how has that journey been in the art world in regards to your identity, in regards to your art, in regards to thriving?
Well, my art, a lot of the art that I make, and unfortunately, I've been so much immersed in this commercial sector that I'm an artist. I consider myself an artist, but I haven't been creating or physically painting in some years. But the basis of my art, I did go to art school, was usually dealing with identity, how I'm perceived in the world, how I consider myself Afro-Latina. But in the 90s, people from my own country or other Latinos that were darker than me would be like, you're not Black. So it was dealing with the identity of not Black enough, too Black, depending on the texture of your hair, the curvature of your body. I've been kind of straddling the line, and I recognize now years I recognize my own privilege in a way. So in my art, I also addressed a lot of that, straight hair versus curly hair. And, you know, how we as women, especially, you know, biracial, Latinas, brown, are perceived in society. And I've done a lot of social experiments with myself even about just going to certain markets or certain areas with different looks and applying that to some of the visuals that I was making at that time during my time as a practicing artist. So what was the second part of your question?
Well, in regards to blurring those lines, right? Now that you just mentioned blurring the lines, you know, and being an Afro-Latina, and like you just said, sometimes you are perceived as like a chameleon in a way, right? So sometimes you're an Afro-Latina, sometimes you're a white Latina, and there is privilege with that as well as racism with that, correct? And so in that world, how have you thrived in regards to getting to where you're at and traveling all over the world? You traveled to Paris, you traveled to Italy, which I'm dying to hear, by the way, all of those great stories, you know. And so how have you managed kind of like that blurring the lines and also like maybe even the hurt of having to blur the lines so you can thrive?
It's been a little difficult. It's one step at a time. In many ways, I have the privilege. It's a double-edged sword to look in the mirror and say, who is my clientele today? Where am I going? I'm also consider myself fairly young, so I can go to like the happening events and still go to the new contemporary art exhibit and get it. I still have my finger on the pulse of what like young artists are doing. But at the same time, I can also make myself very palatable for my clients and walk right into Christie's or Sotheby's and do what I need to do. So I recognize that a big part of me thriving in a way is being able to blur the lines and jump from world to world because of my race, because of my ethnicity, my tenacity. I'm also, you know, the New York part, we've emphasized the New York part. I mean, we're very intent driven. So, you know, if you don't, I'll show up, I'll do it. The term fixer comes from a place, because if I want results, I need something done for one of my clients. I've been known to show up and fix it myself. And one of the trips to Italy was something that I just showed up.
So I have a question for you. How do you, because that's a lot. You've just unpacked a lot of, you know, narratives that have definitely been in the forefront of our country. How do you manage that mentally? You know, because I know that is, you know, that's maybe not a struggle, but it's definitely something that you have to kind of manage mentally. How do you do that? And, you know, like what does that look like for you?
Well, I have not been painting or drawing as I used to maybe a decade ago, but I find great relief, great stress relief therapy in writing. I'm journaling every morning. I also have been making a practice of starting to journal. And by journal, I mean modern, like I have a notepad in my phone and I save my notes. And I just release all my thoughts, how I'm feeling. I do like a mental check-in. How am I feeling? How was my day? And I call it poops and sprinkles. Like what was bad about today and what was good about today.
Wait, did you say poops and sprinkles? I like
poops and sprinkles. I'm writing this down. Poops and sprinkles.
There's a 10-year-old in my house.
Right.
And, you know, I made it in a fun way. So what was your poop for the day? Like what was bad and stinky? What really was sucky? And what's your sprinkle? What made your day? What gave you joy? So I kind of make a mental note and I try to at least end with the sprinkle and think about, well, you know, let's not harp on what was bad or what made me feel terrible. What can I do to either prevent that or to keep my head up? And in many ways, as a woman and as a woman of color, we have to be our own cheerleaders. Sometimes I have, with tears in my eyes, looked in the mirror and said, you know, what happens is not okay, but you still have to navigate these waters. You still have to keep your head up. You still have to be a lady. You still, you know, you're not a 15 16-year-old from Queens right now. You know, you're a professional. You have to just give it back with love, give it back with the intention that you want. So there's a lot of mental checking, a lot of meditation, a lot of morning, like today is going to be a good day.
And you're a mom, right? So of a daughter?
Yeah.
So how do you show up?
Can you girls hear me?
Yes.
No, now we can.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm having issues over here. I was going to ask that in the background, you were saying about art saved your life, which kind of goes with this. Like, how did art save your life? You're talking about meditation. You're talking about check-ins. How did it save your life?
Well, I come from a family of very strong women, but it's no secret. Like sometimes the people that are seemingly the strongest are people that are somehow putting a wall up, and there's something inside. So I have battled with depression from as long as I can remember. I mean, 14, 15 years old, just basic little things. And I think that's what kept me consistent in the arts, because it was something that was my own little thing. I didn't show my art to people unless I wanted to. Me sharing art with you is like me sharing a bite of food from a plate. So the arts allowed me to kind of almost manage that emotion, because it was a catharsis. It was a release that allowed me to do it. Whether it was, painting a drawing, or even just like writing 16 pages before bed and then turning that into a painting, it really helped my spirit to release that, because it was a lot of weight to carry a lot of times artists are producing in a studio by themselves, and you're alone with your thoughts, and you just want to, it needs to come out somehow. You don't want to navigate the world with all this weight. So for artists, it comes out, it needs to come out either with your voice, through your hands. So I think that's why I've benefited from that. And that's what I do still in a different way.
Wow.
Who's your favorite artist?
I have so many. It depends. It's like, when you're cooking dinner, what music do you want to hear? Or when you want to go out with your girls, what music do you want to hear? For me to pick an artist is...
How about your top five?
Oh, I was asked the other day. On the topic of mental health, I like Yayoi Kusama a lot. She does the patterning, and I even went to Japan to go see all her artworks, and I was just like in awe in heaven. Top five, that's a lot.
Well, I think your daughter is one. Isn't she an artist?
She is. She's more like her dad. She's a science brain. I'm a bonus mom. My stepdaughter, I'm pushing the art on her, but she's more of a logic brain. She does have a little painting that she started, so I can throw her in there. Her
creativity, right?
Yeah.
So you just mentioned Japan, and I know we've talked about Paris, we've talked about Italy when we first spoke with you, and tell us a story about one of your travels.
Oh man, this is my one of my favorite stories. I'm gonna try to keep it short because I can go on. So I was with my girlfriend, who's also a Colombiana. And we went to Naoshima. It's like the art island over there. We took I swear what seems like 3 trains, 2 buses, 2 ferries. Like we were crawling, and it was just like, oh. So we finally get to this art island, and we get to this exhibition, and we walk into a room, and they had Monet's water lilies in this room. And it was an atrium. It was light from above, and it was a circular room. And Japanese are very particular with how they present things. So they said, no. You have to take off your shoes. So it was a room that you could not go and dirty up the space. So they gave us these slippers, and they gave us kimonos. So we're like, whoa, this is an experience. This is very lovely. We walk in, and upon entering this room, the light, I can't describe it other than this is what I imagine that's what heaven felt like. We took a step. The floor were 1 inch by 1 inch marble tiles, and it was marble, but we were walking, and we felt like the warmth from the atrium was hitting our shoulders. My friend and I, we looked at each other, and we had tears in our eyes. We're like, is this heaven? Like I get emotional even talking about it. We look at the same time without saying a word. We both bent down at the same time to touch the floor because each step felt like we were walking on pillows, on comforters, but it was the slippers. So we go down and we touch the floor. Like, are we walking on a bed? Like, what? And it was just such an otherworldly experience to experience art that way. And that's why, you know, I love what's happening with all the media and all the tech that's being involved to keep people excited and keep people immersed. But man, going and experiencing something in person with your senses, with your soul, it's like there's nothing like that. So that's one of the most amazing experiences. And it was Monet's water lilies, which is like, you know, impressionist. You know, it's something like you learn about in school. I mean, they're beautiful, but it was the whole thing coming together. It was like, oh, my heart. It's the most serious memory of one of the best memories of my life.
Wow.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because when it comes to in person, we're gonna go next week to the Beyond Van Gogh that's in Miami, and I've seen it like Paris, and I've seen it in other places where it's like the entire room. I'm hoping it's like that, right? The entire room is just lit up with all of his beautiful art, and you're kind of walking through it. So I'm hoping to feel, well, I doubt I'll feel as magical as you did, but it's funny because now that I have my first vaccine, I'm going to my second vaccine soon, and everything, you know, the curfew's done and Miami's more open than ever. It's a matter of that in-person experience and experiencing art to kind of like transform you, right? Or kind of like provide that sort of therapy in a way.
Yeah.
So, get that. Could you try again?
Yeah. So totally agree. When you go in a place, you look to have that immersion, that feeling. You're looking to be wowed. You're looking to be romance. You want to fall in love with something. And Van Gogh, a lot of these artists that you see or that you've seen about, what makes people feel good typically is art that they recognize or like, oh my God, I learned about this in school. But sometimes it's not necessarily about feeling something good either. I've had really interesting art experiences with art that I didn't like. And, you know, having people saying, but why? And having this debate. And I think that you ultimately come out on the other side better. It's like, why don't you like it? Why are you upset? Like, so the Van Gogh is a good, like, happy feeling, happy emotion. And I think it's so interesting how people, when they look at Van Gogh, they feel happy, but he was such a sad man. Like he produced the stuff with such pain, and he was able to achieve that in others is the ultimate goal, isn't it? He thought his art was no good. He felt he was so depressed and ultimately took his own life because he couldn't manage all these emotions. And man, he probably would have lived longer had he known the effects of his art would have in the world. But what artist today feels that way now? You go out and you send your art and it's rejection. And it's like, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. So, you know, putting yourself in situations, also you got to build thick skin. Go and you look at art that's bad, art that's good. You go and you just get out there. And the more you experience something, the better you get at it, the better you're able to accept it, receive it, understand it.
And then it's so personal. I mean, art is just very, very personal. You know, it's what you interpret, how you interpret, how it shows up for you, what you see. You know, I may look at something that I might think is fascinating, and you might be like, okay, I don't really see that. So it's the personal side is what really makes it, I think, kind of a wow. Favorite. How you internalize it. Huh?
That's one of my favorite things. When you're talking about abstract art with little kids, they're like, what is that? It looks like a boat. It looks like a banana. It looks like a shoe. And you're like, oh my God, it's awesome.
Right.
You know, it's funny, before we go to kids, because we have a lot to talk about that, since we're three moms of three beautiful girls who are very artsy and very intelligent girls. I wanted to find out, how has COVID transformed your business and the marketing aspect of it, and just just you traveling to Paris and helping a client out. How has that experience helped you grow as not only a person, but as just your business in general?
So the art world, like going to like an art show or contemporary art is very hip and happening. So artists have been, when Instagram started, artists were the first ones on there. They were doing it. They have no problem with that. It's getting the rest of the art industry. The artists and the art industry are two different things. So the tastemakers, the people that say what art is valuable, the people that say what art is good, it's like, I don't need Instagram. What do I need that for? Art comes to me, so for a long time, art is in a way very old money. They didn't need any of this. If you wanted something, you knew exactly who to call because it was somebody's granddaughter, You call a couple of galleries and your family's a collector. So what's happening now, you have the institutions of, all the museums in the world, all the auction houses, all the big stuffy galleries, and even the fun hip galleries. Everybody's being dragged, kicking and screaming to have to do, this social marketing, this face forward. Like, you have to give something to the world. Teach me something. What are you doing? And now we're seeing, maybe not in person, but we're seeing art that probably doesn't get to be seen ever, because some of these works get purchased for private collections, and they're never in a museum. They're never everywhere, and it's pretty cool to see. There's also a lot more transparency in how art is moved around, curatorial process, behind the scenes, for art installations and art shows and artists standing in front of the camera talking about their work. Now available at a moment's notice. Instead of you having to travel to sit in a room to see the artist, you can be in the room as we are talking right now. So it hit the art market pretty hard. Fairs were canceled. Galleries were freaking out. Last summer was quiet, and then everybody was like, okay, we got to go virtual. All of a sudden, all the fairs are virtual. Everybody has an online gallery, videos, YouTube, everybody was doing it, good, bad, ugly. And we were fatigued. It was virtual art fatigue. I mean, I was getting up at 3 a.m. to watch a show because it was a stream at a certain time, and it was just like a lot. And then after we calmed down a bit, we said, okay, some of the fairs were canceled. They're like, okay, maybe another virtual fair isn't the answer. So now we're kind of resting. We're letting the dust settle, and people are getting excited about buying art again. They're feeling a little bit more safer about coming out of their safe spaces to see art in person. But at first, people didn't know if this was going to affect the economy. People weren't buying art. People were like, sell your art. And then now people are starting to, okay, I want to buy again. But at first, it was like panic mode.
I could only imagine.
As we go back out, do you think that there's anything that the art world will keep that they did during COVID? Like, as we kind of, branch out, is there anything that kind of resonates that will, people will say, you know what, maybe we'll keep a little bit of that and incorporate that into.
Absolutely. I think it'll never be the same again. I mean, before it was just like, you had people printing pictures and bringing physical pictures to a meeting. And now it's like, I can make you a video. I can take a video, a picture back. Now you can create this whole multimedia presentation to simulate an immersive experience to the best of your ability, at least to build up excitement. To, you know what, I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to put on my mask and I'm going to go see you in person. And sometimes an email with a photo is not going to do that. It's the whole story that you paint.
Right.
And now, once you had a taste, they're not going to go back to just sending one photo with a description. That's not enough. What else is that? Tell me the story.
This is fantastic, because stories are so important in every situation. I think that's what really engages people, right? And what really unites us as people, I think. And since COVID has been so isolating, those stories and new ways of connecting is just so powerful. And to do that in the art world is 10 times more powerful. And what I'd like to ask you is, what advice do you have for young painters, like, let's say my daughter, who painted this abstract behind us? What advice do you have that they're starting out and in this new, as you just mentioned, technology, and it's a different world. It really is. A lot of millennials are getting into it now. My daughter's Gen Z, but what would you tell them to really thrive in this business and this niche that you found as well?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, it's diversity, because, when I used to teach art, I used to have kids that used to just be about anime. This is my style. This is what I like. I only like to draw anime characters. And it's like, you cannot, in the arts, you cannot be a one-trick pony. Like, if a musical artist first album sounds like their third, what's the purpose? So, keep practicing your craft. Most importantly, I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, and saying, you don't believe in me, but, I myself was an art kid, and I came out of college bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with just a BFA and a smile and college debt. So I'm going to say, what somebody's mom would say. I'm a bonus mom, so I'm going to say it. Take some business classes. I recommend it to anybody in any major. If you're going into a major that is, a hard science, engineering, doctor, lawyer, fine. But if you're going to do something that is subjective, that's not a direct part of the economic machine, I really recommend you take some business classes. Are you your biggest fan? Do you think you're the best artist in the world? Then you better take some marketing classes, because you're the only person that knows that right now. So you need to figure out how you're going to get there. Business classes, accounting. I mean, I came out here and I learned everything myself. I'm not going to say what year that was, but it took a while. So definitely,
that's so key. I think just throughout arts and culture, just if you're a musician, a theater person, arts. I mean, and I think that is probably something that a lot of creatives learn this year. When having to think about, okay, wow, I'm so used to doing things one way. How am I going to actually do something another way to make a living? So, definitely great words of advice, and I think that's a lesson that a lot of creatives learned this year.
Absolutely. And so outsourcing is very expensive. You want to hire an accountant, you want to hire this, if you don't have basic skills, you're going to be losing some of your own profit, and profits are going to be low for a while. So be your own office.
You want to know what that accountant is doing. So you want to be aware of whoever you hire and making sure that they have your best interest, at heart as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And Yuki, we're running out of time. So I did want to ask you, what is your next project? Where can we find you? How do we follow your amazing career and persona?
So my fun project is I started a podcast with my significant other because we are yin and yang. I am all about art, and he's all about science, and we're foodies and travelers. And during COVID, as part of my mental sanity, we were like, we need to keep our joy up. I know that there's people out there that are struggling also. So we talk about what we were watching, what we were eating, what parenting tips, dating tips, things to share with the world to give them joy, and tips and hacks and how to include art and science in your life. As far as my own personal Instagram is at Bohemia Blue. I have a lot of my projects. Unfortunately, some of my things I cannot share. I told you this. I don't have permission to post all of the amazing art that I work with all the time. But I am getting a website soon, and I'm going to be offering my services, the diversity of my services, to people to handle our collections, logistics. I have a painting that was severely damaged. I don't know what to do. There's something, you know, I'm looking for the right piece, or I inherited this painting by an artist. I have no idea what it's worth. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? You know, just the odds and ends of things that people don't even think about regarding art until they have it on their lap and they need somebody. They need an Olivia Pope person.
And Belkis, one of our viewers is asking, do you have capacity for new clients? If so, how can you be contacted? So do you have capacity for new clients?
I do. Right now, I have one big exciting project happening in May, but as of, you know, I can start, if somebody emails me and reaches me out on Instagram, I can get them get them on my radar, take a look at what it is exactly that they need, and get back to them, and then try to fit them in the schedule.
What's your email?
Tavera, Tavera @iCloud.com. That's pretty simple, I think.
And just tell us your Instagram one more time.
@Bohemia Blue. BOHEMIA. Blue.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. And thank you, Belkis, for joining us as well and asking your amazing question. Anything else you'd like to ask, Yvette, before we say goodbye?
No, I definitely would love to have you back on, maybe during Arts and Humanities Month, just to see where you're at and see if you can give our audience some tips and, you know, just reconnect.
I would love that. I would love to do one with just like looking at art. Like, let's just talk about art. And
yeah, that would be fascinating.
Yes.
And like I said, we're available to travel whenever you want us to.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank you. Join us next time. Thank you. And join us next time, next Friday, live on our show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. And thank you for your time, Yuki. It's been fascinating and a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the weekend, everyone. It's going to be amazing.